Nobody expected the courtroom breakdown that would change everything. When Justin Combs took the witness stand in his father's federal trial, what started as routine testimony quickly turned into a devastating confession that left everyone speechless. The tears weren't from sadness, they were from years of suppressed trauma finally erupting under oath. "I was just a kid," he sobbed as federal prosecutors pressed him about events that allegedly happened when he was barely a teenager. "I was too young to understand what I was seeing." The revelations that followed painted a picture of a childhood stolen by exposure to adult activities that no child should ever witness. But what exactly did young Justin see during those formative years that would haunt him into adulthood? The testimony that emerged would shatter the carefully constructed image of hip-hop royalty and reveal the dark price of growing up in the shadow of alleged criminal enterprise. Justin Combs' childhood in the spotlight. Justin D. Combs was born on December 30, 1993, into a world of unprecedented wealth, fame, and access that shaped his formative years in ways that few children ever experience. As the eldest son of Sean Diddy Combs, he grew up surrounded by celebrity culture, music industry events, and business operations that would later become subjects of federal investigation. His childhood included attendance at exclusive private schools, luxury vacations, and constant exposure to entertainment industry figures who frequented his father's homes and business events. From an early age, Justin was present at recording sessions, music video shoots, and industry parties that were central to Bad Boy Entertainment's operations. The timeline of federal allegations against Diddy spans from 2008 to present, meaning that some of the alleged criminal enterprise activities occurred during Justin's teenage years, when he was between 14 and 20 years old, and increasingly present at family business events. Questions arise about what a young person might observe during these formative years and how exposure to adult activities could affect psychological development and understanding of appropriate boundaries and behavior. Legal experts note that children and teenagers who grow up within alleged criminal enterprises often witness activities without fully understanding their significance or legal implications until they reach adulthood and can contextualize their experiences. The reality of federal trial testimony. Federal trials involving RICO charges often include testimony from family members, associates, and witnesses who observed alleged criminal enterprise activities over extended periods, particularly when those individuals had access to private family and business settings. The legal process for compelling testimony from reluctant witnesses includes subpoenas, immunity agreements, and contempt of court proceedings that can force individuals to testify even when they prefer to remain silent about family matters. Witness testimony in federal trials must meet strict legal standards for relevance, reliability, and admissibility, with judges carefully evaluating whether evidence relates to the specific charges and whether witnesses are competent to provide accurate accounts. The emotional stress of testifying in federal trials can be overwhelming for witnesses, particularly when they must provide testimony that might harm family members or reveal private activities that they witnessed during their childhood or young adulthood. Federal courts include provisions for witness support, including psychological counseling and legal protections designed to help individuals navigate the challenging process of providing testimony in high-stakes criminal proceedings. Childhood trauma and witness testimony. Criminal psychology research reveals that children who grow up in environments involving alleged criminal activity often experience trauma that affects their development, memory formation, and ability to process experiences that exceeded their developmental capacity. The impact of witnessing inappropriate adult activities during childhood can include confusion about normal behavior, difficulty establishing healthy boundaries, and psychological effects that persist into adulthood and affect personal relationships. Federal cases involving family members often include expert testimony about the psychological effects of childhood exposure to criminal enterprise activities and how such exposure might affect witnesses' ability to provide accurate accounts of events. The process of recalling and testifying about childhood experiences can be emotionally devastating for witnesses who must revisit traumatic memories while facing legal pressure to provide complete and accurate testimony. Mental health professionals note that individuals who witnessed alleged criminal activities as children often struggle with guilt, loyalty conflicts, and identity issues that complicate their ability to participate in legal proceedings against family members. The alleged freakoff activities and child exposure. Federal prosecutors allege that Diddy organized and participated in elaborate sexual performances called freakoffs that involved coercion, commercial sex workers, and extensive documentation of activities that allegedly constituted criminal behavior. The The indictment describes these events as occurring at various properties owned by Diddy, including homes where family members lived and where children might have been present during preparation or aftermath of alleged activities. Questions arise about what children living in these environments might have observed and whether exposure to such activities could constitute additional criminal charges related to child endangerment or corruption of minors. Legal experts note that the presence of minors in environments where alleged criminal sexual activities occurred could significantly affect both the charges against primary defendants and the psychological impact on young witnesses. The implications could suggest that childhood exposure to alleged criminal enterprise activities might create both evidentiary value for prosecutors and additional trauma for family members who witnessed events without understanding their significance. Industry parties and inappropriate exposure. The entertainment industry culture includes numerous parties, gatherings, and events that can involve adult activities, substance use, and behaviors that might be inappropriate for children and teenagers who are present due to family connections. Justin's presence at industry events throughout his childhood and teenage years could have exposed him to activities that exceeded appropriate boundaries for young people, creating situations where he witnessed adult behavior without proper context or protection. The culture of discretion within entertainment industry circles can create environments where inappropriate activities occur with the expectation that witnesses will maintain silence about what they observe, potentially affecting children's understanding of normal behavior. Questions arise about the responsibility of adults to protect children from exposure to inappropriate activities, and whether industry culture creates environments that normalize exposure to adult behaviors that could be harmful to young witnesses. Legal experts wonder whether testimony about childhood exposure to inappropriate industry activities could be relevant to understanding the culture and operations of alleged criminal enterprises within entertainment businesses. Family loyalty versus legal obligations. The conflict between family loyalty and legal obligations creates intense psychological pressure for family members who must choose between protecting loved ones and fulfilling legal responsibilities to provide truthful testimony in federal proceedings. Justin's position as both a family member and potential witness creates complex emotional dynamics as he faces pressure to provide information that could harm his father while processing his own experiences and trauma from childhood exposure. Federal immunity agreements can provide legal protection for witnesses while requiring them to provide complete and truthful testimony about their knowledge of criminal activities, creating situations where family members must reveal information they prefer to keep private. The decision to testify against family members involves overcoming psychological barriers related to loyalty, trust, and family identity that have been fundamental to witnesses' personal development and relationships. Support systems for witnesses facing family loyalty conflicts include legal counseling, psychological therapy, and victim advocacy designed to help individuals navigate complex emotional and legal challenges. The timeline of alleged criminal activities. The federal indictment against Diddy covers alleged criminal enterprise activities from 2008 to present, a period that encompasses Justin's development from age 14 to 30 and his increasing involvement in family business operations. The timeline suggests that some alleged criminal activities occurred during Justin's high school and college years when he was developing his own identity while remaining connected to family business operations and social activities. Questions arise about what specific events Justin might have witnessed during different phases of his development and how his understanding of those events might have changed as he matured and gained perspective on their significance. The chronological overlap between alleged criminal activities and Justin's formative years could provide prosecutors valuable testimony about the scope and duration of alleged criminal enterprise operations. Legal experts note that witnesses who observed alleged criminal activities over extended periods during their personal development often provide comprehensive accounts that can be particularly valuable for establishing patterns of criminal behavior. Psychological impact of forced testimony. The requirement to testify against family members can create severe psychological trauma for witnesses who must balance legal obligations with emotional bonds and family relationships that have defined their personal identity. Federal courts recognize that compelling family member testimony can be emotionally devastating and include provisions for psychological support, witness protection, and counseling services designed to help individuals navigate the trauma of testifying. The process of providing testimony that might result in family members receiving lengthy prison sentences creates moral and emotional burdens that witnesses must carry throughout their lives, affecting their mental health and family relationships. Expert testimony in federal cases often includes psychological evaluations of witnesses to help courts understand how trauma and emotional pressure might affect the reliability and credibility of testimony provided under legal compulsion. The long-term psychological effects of testifying against family members include depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and relationship difficulties that may require ongoing mental health treatment and support. Media coverage and witness protection. High-profile federal trials generate extensive media coverage that can affect witnesses' privacy, safety, and psychological well-being during and after legal proceedings, particularly when witnesses are family members of celebrity defendants. The public nature of celebrity trials means that witness testimony becomes subject to intense scrutiny, analysis, and commentary that can affect witnesses' ability to rebuild their lives after fulfilling their legal obligations. Federal witness protection programs provide security and support for witnesses who might face threats or retaliation for their testimony, though such programs can require significant lifestyle changes and separation from familiar environments. Social media amplification of trial coverage can create additional pressure on witnesses whose testimony becomes subject to public debate, criticism, and speculation that affects their personal and professional relationships. Questions arise about how media attention might affect witnesses' willingness to provide testimony and whether publicity could influence the accuracy or completeness of information provided during legal proceedings. Corroborating evidence and investigation. Federal prosecutors typically corroborate witness testimony with physical evidence, financial records, electronic communications, and other sources that support accounts provided by family members and other witnesses. The value of Justin's potential testimony would depend on whether his accounts of alleged criminal activities can be verified through documentary evidence, surveillance materials, and testimony from other witnesses who observed similar events. Prosecutors often use witness testimony to establish timelines, identify participants, and describe the operations of alleged criminal enterprises while relying on other evidence to prove specific criminal acts and legal elements. The credibility of family member testimony in federal trials often depends on corroborating evidence that demonstrates the accuracy and reliability of witnesses' accounts of events they observed during their involvement with alleged criminal enterprises. Legal experts note that successful federal prosecutions typically involve multiple sources of evidence that collectively support criminal charges rather than relying solely on witness testimony, particularly from family members who might have conflicts of interest. The broader implications for entertainment families. The potential testimony of entertainment industry family members in federal criminal trials could establish precedents for how children and young adults who grew up within alleged criminal enterprises are treated by the legal system. The entertainment industry's culture of privacy and discretion faces challenges when federal investigations examine activities that allegedly involved criminal behavior witnessed by family members who were minors during relevant time periods. Questions arise about the responsibility of entertainment industry figures to protect children from exposure to inappropriate activities and whether industry culture creates environments that could constitute child endangerment. The outcomes of cases involving entertainment family testimony might influence how other wealthy families in the industry approach business operations and family involvement in potentially sensitive activities. Legal precedents established through entertainment industry family testimony could affect how future cases involving celebrity defendants and family witnesses are investigated and prosecuted by federal authorities. Victim impact and accountability. Federal cases involving alleged criminal enterprises often include testimony from family members who witnessed harmful activities, providing perspectives on how criminal behavior affected not only direct victims but also family members who observed alleged crimes. The testimony of individuals who witnessed alleged criminal activities as children can provide unique insights into the scope and impact of criminal enterprises while also demonstrating the broader harm caused by criminal behavior. Victim advocacy organizations generally support testimony that helps establish accountability for criminal behavior, recognizing that family member witnesses often possess crucial information about alleged criminal enterprise operations. The balance between protecting family members from trauma and ensuring accountability for alleged criminal behavior creates complex considerations for prosecutors and courts managing high-profile cases. Questions arise about how victim impact considerations might influence decisions about compelling family member testimony and whether the potential for justice outweighs the personal costs faced by witnesses. Looking toward justice and healing. The resolution of federal cases involving family member testimony often requires extended legal proceedings during which witnesses must live with uncertainty about outcomes while processing their own trauma and family relationship changes. The healing process for family members who provide testimony in federal cases typically requires ongoing psychological support, counseling, and time to rebuild personal relationships and identity outside of their family's legal troubles. Legal EXP RTS note that federal cases involving entertainment industry figures often establish precedents that influence how similar situations are handled in future prosecutions involving celebrity defendants and family witnesses. The broader implications for justice include recognition that accountability for alleged criminal behavior sometimes requires difficult testimony from family members who witnessed activities during their formative years. The ultimate goals include ensuring that justice is served while providing appropriate support and protection for witnesses who fulfill their legal obligations despite personal and emotional costs. If you're as concerned about the impact of childhood trauma on legal proceedings as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think children who witness alleged criminal activities should be required to testify against family members? How do you balance the need for justice with protecting young witnesses from additional trauma? We want to hear your perspective on these complex issues involving family loyalty, legal obligations, and childhood protection. Then, hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of how federal cases affect families and the challenging decisions witnesses face in high-profile proceedings. Thanks for watching.